So, hello everyone. I'm obviously I cannot see the other end of the people that are sitting over there and watching this talk. But thank you so much for joining this talk, and thank you again for giving up your time. So, we're just going to discuss a bit good about how the InfoSec as a community is, what are the things that are really fascinating, and how it makes a great community, and what are some of the challenges and stuff like that with the InfoSec right now. I'm a person who wasn't pretty much known to the community before. Like back in 2019, 2018, I wasn't even known, but I wasn't even sure if I would be able to make it to this point. But then it's all because of the community I stand. And when we say InfoSec as a security industry, some think of it as with the perspective of like it's a half empty glass or maybe half full, because some of the critiques about infosecurity as an industry is like there are a lot of challenges for the people to get into the community, which includes one of the reasons like gatekeeping, a lack of knowledge, and people and making lack of not actually sharing the kind of things for the people who want to join in the community, who want to contribute, or who are looking for mentors and mentees, so that that creates a kind of relationship. But then there are some good sides of this infosecurity as an industry as well, because if you're coming from a background who's been a developer, you can just be very easy. You feel very easy to get into the community by understanding the logics and understanding what is happening at the back, right? And then you can try to mold yourself in a way that you understand security. So it's not something that I would consider one of the best industry, because there's always ups and downs, and there's always change of opinions. You might get disagreement with a lot of people. Somebody might agree with you. Somebody would try to pull you down, but then at the end of the day, there are people who support you. So obviously, it all starts with a dialogue, with communicating with the people around you, with the people you approach for help and stuff like that, because that's how the human nature is, right? Sometimes we don't tend to ask for help, or maybe ask for kind of support that we require, but it's really important to be one of those people, because that's how actually we can overcome all of our fears or things like imposter syndrome, because some of us might look for validation of what we do in the community or what we do in the industry, and some won't even look for those validations, and they will continue to do the good work and the good job they do. But then it's always good to have someone to listen to you, or to hear your opinions, have that discussion and stuff like that. But then there are people who are making their name in the shadows, and they've been never highlighted, or they've been never been someone being discussed more frequently in the industry. So I have a story to share, and it's really nice and it's really fascinating, which is like, when I started in the security domain specifically, like in early ages, in my teenage and then growing up, I used to follow a lot of stuff that was available online, right? So there was a lot of stuff that was paid. Obviously, I was a student, like most of you, or maybe some of you have already gone through that stage. Didn't have enough funds to support myself, and then there were some video YouTube kind of channels that were actually sort of helping me with that skill set, right? So I came across this YouTube channel, and now it was a YouTube channel. It was a different website. It was something like very specific to security, and there was a new term called buffer overflow. And it was really fascinating for me at that time, right? And I really wanted to learn more about that. And the more I tried to explore the content, what was posted on that video form, the more I got interested in all of that stuff that was being done at the back, right? I mean, when it comes to information security and in a technical perspective. Um, but then when I sort of started searching about the person, that was really a fascinating story to hear, and that was really, I mean, absolutely inspiring story. So this is Mr. Vivek Ramchandran. He is pretty much now known for the contribution he made to the community by posting videos and tutorials and all of that on his website called Security Tube. And then he started his own training company, which was recently been acquired by another training company, training and certification company. This is the room where he used to set up his environment and used to, record all of those videos. And you can see how there's no proper studio or there's no proper sort of, setup that has been, placed over there for him to, record all of those videos and do all of the stuff that people usually do. But now he's training every sector that is actively working in the information technology industry. It can be a government environment, it can be a government entity, it can be a private sector, it can be anything you name. And the guy has really made his name out of everything, which is because he made that contribution in the shadows. Even though nobody was actually recognizing him for whatever he was contributing to the community, yet he is standing right now. And now people really recognize him for the work and the job he has done. So next up, I have another interesting story of how actually the community supports each other and then, overcoming the point of when you look for someone for that kind of support, and once you get that, I mean, this is an extraordinary thing that some of people really enjoy, and some of people really think of it like, this can actually happen as well. So that's not my computer being hacked. That's a screenshot earlier from a ransomware called WannaCry, where it was like most of the hospitals in the UK were badly affected, and everything was turned upside down because of this specific ransomware. So I was just checking my chat. Maybe I just got some messages from hosts just to make sure I don't ignore that. But anyways, this ransomware had actually created a kind of a devastating effect, a devastating situation for everyone around the world. That can be any industry. Like maybe there are countries that had not much of the IT infrastructure in their organization, but that got hit with this ransomware, and it was a ticking bomb. But then the beautiful part of this industry is we always introspect and we always look for things like these, and we always look for helping the industry as a whole in such crucial times, right? And so there was a researcher from the UK again. He got a snippet of the malware. Like a snippet can be a kind of code that was executed on the computers that were getting infected. And what the snippet was looking was a kind of domain that needs to be registered. And once he registered that domain, the malware or the ransomware was deactivated from every computer that was affected. And that's the guy, Marcus, one of the great, I would say, hackers who had actually helped the global. His contributions are somewhere like helping the world to get over, this in this. I'm sorry, anyways, so his contribution actually created a kind of impact around the globe, which was like the malware or the ransomware was deactivated from everywhere from every computer. But then, what happens next? Uh, he's visiting Vegas for DEF CON and just enjoying there with a lot of friends and folks. And then when he's flying back to England, he's been arrested, and everybody is kind of shocked with this news. And the moment the news was broken on Twitter or anywhere, it spread like anything you could imagine, right? But then the same community came up and then helped him, to get over the difficult phase of his life, which was being arrested and then putting him in jail. Maybe not putting him in jail, but maybe like filing for bond, for release bond, and then all of that stuff. Advocating specifically for Marcus, and then after a lot of years of efforts, he got free. And just because he did something in the past, which was something really bad, he was being arrested for that specific case. But here's the thing. The man changed the entire history for humankind when the ransomware had attacked. And the judge that made a decision on Marcus made it really clear in the verdict. It was like he turned the corner, and sometimes something that we did in the past might be something wrong, but then he made that sort of effort to make this world a better place. And yeah, here it is. So there's a fun story that involves me as well in one of the incidents. Like I was doing some research on a lot of projects, and I was just learning how things can, finding bugs and vulnerabilities and so forth and stuff like that. So I found this electronic system. It had this buggy code or vulnerable code within their application, and what I did was I sort of created a kind of exploit code for that, and then I reported that to the vendor, but they didn't respond back to it. But then what happened was I responsibly disclosed it by creating kind of exploit for that, so that someone who understands how the logic works can try to figure out how the exploit works, and then they can patch their systems apart, because it was an open source web application, right? And then it's not something really complicated, like you need to build something from scratch and then compile it and then publish it, but it's more like you get into the specific area of the code, fix it, and then bam, it's all done. So while I did that contribution, someone stole my exploit code and reported it to CNA for a CVE, and then published it something like their own work, right? And make it look like this was entirely their project and entirely what they were doing. And it was a company, it was not an individual, it was a company that was doing that. And I reached out to them a lot of times. I still don't want to take their name because I respect I want to maintain the confidentiality. But then, obviously, that got stolen. And just because I didn't know how to file a CVE, let's say, or maybe because I wasn't pretty much aware of the fact that there is something called CVE, that thing happened with me, right? But the good part is, there's a platform called TryHack. They actually created a kind of environment, introduced this, you can say like, deliberately creating a kind of vulnerable machine for the students so that they can learn from it. And when they were creating this environment, they introduced the same vulnerability. And what happened was, all of the folks who were actually exploiting this machine or this environment just to get some learning out of it were using the exploit code that I posted. So one way or another, my contribution was actually being recognized by folks who are actually working on this machine. And I'm glad they did that, because that way actually they learned how exploits work. And I've seen a lot of comments which says they had to they had to modify some of the code within the exploit because it was not working on their environment, which is a great idea. And that's how contribution works, and that's how community works. Contribution, you contribute, you sit together, you learn from your mistakes, you learn from what you have done, or you try to adopt anything that is new and an improved version of anything that you're working on, right? And so there was another specific point in my life which changed the entire course of my life for the next 3 years, which was like COVID hit really hard across the universe. No, I won't say across the universe because I'm not sure the aliens were actually affected with that. But anyways, everyone at this in this global community, I won't say world, but global community, because everyone is connected somewhere somehow, really got affected with this lockdown, or what we call it, this COVID situation, and everybody was stuck in their house where they were living, in wherever you can think of situation, and that was really bad because we as a human are sometimes not pretty much okay being stuck at a point or being forced to sit or forced to be in a position. Rather, we move around and look for things. There can be different situations, and it depends from person to person, right? But then this is Ben, and Ben has been doing a lot of community work, and then he was being invited by one of the major universities in the UK to speak on something. I'm not sure what was that, but Ben, if you did a great job. The picture you're seeing at the back on the screen is from the folks who, as Mike had mentioned earlier, were from InfoSec Happy Hour. And what the InfoSec Happy Hour was, it was all just individuals from different continents, from different races, from different religion. We didn't care about that. What we did was we used to sit together, enjoy drinks, discuss topics, things to improve, and what we can do to improve this community, and then ask for suggestions. So that was exactly my point to, ask for suggestions, ask for recommendations, ask for what I can do to upscale myself or improve myself as a better human, because not a better human actually, a better human as a profession. And I'll be very honest with you at this point. I wasn't even fluent with my language, the language I'm speaking. Yes, English. I wasn't pretty much fluent with that. I used to sort of stuck or maybe sort of take a lot of time to comprehend what I was thinking and then giving it a kind of my words. But it all happened because I was given that confidence by the community. I was given that support by the community. And what next happened? I spoke to a lot of folks, like Leonard is one of them, Nikos, Ian as well sometimes. And I did my first talk at BeerCon4 because BeerCon was not actually happening. And then that was one of my opportunities to grab. I mean, obviously, I was a kind of person who cannot actually visit Vegas because it's pretty expensive for a person who's living across the continents to book a flight and then visa and all of that processes. But this was my opportunity, right? And I grabbed that. But then this actually helped me to kind of do a lot of more vulnerability disclosures. And I picked a side gig, which is, people call it bug bounty. And I make a good amount of money out of it sometimes. Right now, I cannot because, obviously, there's a lot of constraints right now, cannot do that. And there's a lot of, time that you need to given. But then it was great because I got a lot of help from the community. I got a lot of help from every person in the community, and I reached out for that. But then there was another project I was working on since 2019, and I mentioned that earlier as well in my talk. And in 2021, I was invited to speak at one of the conferences, which is now called as Black Hat, and I could never have imagined that. And when I say that, I get really emotional for the fact that I could have never imagined to be someone standing up there and discussing my research with the people that are really looking forward to it, and they're really there to listen to my research. And this all happened because it's the help that I asked for, it's the support that I asked for, and it's the confidence that I had. But then at one point of time, the negativity will actually hit you hard as well. So most of the folks would actually know that I run a local community, and then there was a gig that I was organizing for the first time, and there were some controversies that took place, but it was not something like that was deliberately made by me or by my other co-founders, but it was more like we missed a part. We were running a gig for the first time. We didn't have any experience for that. But again, who came back to the rescue? The same community. And I thank them. I'll always thank them for this. So, when we say information security or InfoSec is the best industry, I have no adjectives to elaborate that, because we are constantly questioning each other. We are constantly asking for recommendations. We're constantly looking forward to that specific advice from people. That can be anyone, from any person, from anyone across the globe, because we need that. Sometimes we need those validations, and it's okay. We have our respectful agreements and disagreements, because when we discuss stuff, there are some points and there are some opinions that may can be accepted by someone and may can be disagreed by someone. So with that, there's a lot of noise. But anyways, I'll just try to ignore that. So with all of these constant agreements and disagreements, we get more room of improvements, because when someone questions me, or someone questions like, this is something not the right way of doing it, you can do it this way, we improve ourselves. And then, at the end of it, we get over imposter syndrome, which is really, really important for us. And it will evolve constantly, because that's how the community is. And if somebody says, don't follow that, just give them the shut up call. Thank you so much.
Apologies for the hot mics that was kicking around in the venue there, but we could hear you anyway, so everything was fine. And appreciate the shout outs to their farmers and to everybody in the community, because we have, particularly during the dark times of the pandemic, we really did come together, and I think a lot of people made lifelong friendships, and I think that's a really wonderful thing to happen, really. So props to you, and thanks for your talk. So all the best, and enjoy the rest of your stay in Canada.